Welcome to the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Belomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law, and, well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. And on today's episode, I have a dear friend of mine, Craig Milsten, with Katherman Briggs Greenberg. Craig, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing great, Jeff. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's great to see you. I'm looking forward to this episode. And before we get into the episode, I just want to remind my listeners that you should not take advice from this show or any other show for that matter to constitute legal advice. If you're looking for legal advice, please reach out to an attorney licensed in the state that you are in that works in the area and specializes in the area that you are looking for, and then they can provide legal advice to you. This is for information, educational, and just entertainment purposes only. And we hope that you pick up a few things, but please seek out an attorney licensed in your state if you're looking for specific legal advice. Now, I doubt we're going to get into a lot of details with legal advice today, but hey, either way, it's always good to do the disclaimer. Remember, at Belomo & Associates, we offer weekly free educational workshops in estate planning, crisis planning, special needs planning, and administration, both for both trust and probate. If you need any information or education in regards to those areas, please check us out at 717-845-5390 to get the list of workshops, or on the web at www.belomoassociates.com, and we'll be able to give you the listing of all of the upcoming workshops that we are providing in all of those areas. And we would love to assist you if you are in the state of Pennsylvania. All right, awesome. So, Craig, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got into personal injury, my friend.
Well, I am an attorney. My specialty is personal injury. I live in York with my wife and my two kids. I think I always wanted to be a lawyer growing up, which is funny because I took a small detour. When I was in college, I switched to communications and became a sports writer for a couple of years.
Wow.
Before I went back to law school. But then I got back into, obviously became a lawyer and started my career out at the York County District Attorney's Office as an assistant district attorney. I left there and I went to a large insurance defense firm. I did insurance defense for a year, which was more than enough. and then I came back to to York. I worked at a rather large general law firm that did a lot of different things, and I was the head of the litigation department there, and then got recruited over to my current position with Katherman Briggs Greenberg, KBG Injury Law. And I've been here for the last, 17, 18 years now.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. I don't know if I ever told you this, but when I was a young lawyer, we're going back a couple of years here, obviously, but you were always so nice to me at events and would always take the time to talk to me. And not a lot of others did. And, I never forgot that. And I wanted to say thank you publicly for that, because I don't know if I ever had a chance to say that.
I appreciate that, Jeff. I really do. And I know that I know that you return the favor and you do the same thing all the time. I like meeting young lawyers and making new friends and new connections. What I do all day sometimes can be contentious.
Sure.
And yet I've never viewed it that way. That's not my approach to it. And so I do like being able to make those connections there is no contention involved at all.
Right.
Where we all can try and make our days a little more pleasant.
Heck yeah. And if somebody said to you, what is personal injury? I sort of have in my head what I believe that is. What would you say to the listeners that would mean for them?
Yeah. So it's really all based around the concept of negligence.
Okay.
The idea that people are not perfect and people are infallible and they make mistakes. Some of those mistakes are more egregious than others, but the idea is that it's built around that somebody either did something that they shouldn't have done or failed to do something that they should have done. And unfortunately, sometimes there's consequences to that, and their injuries occur. And so when that injury occurs to a person, there's things that have to happen there that person now needs things. They have oftentimes there's economic consequences to that. People are no longer able to work; they're losing income, they're incurring medical bills and that sort of thing. But then there's also the non-economic impact to it, the pain and suffering and the anxiety that it causes and the way it just upturns people's lives. And so, we want to be able to compensate them for the loss that they've suffered.
And there's no real limit to the type of negligence. I mean, whether it's I'm texting and driving, whether I'm in a car or vehicle or something else, or I leave something outside of my business, or I mean, is there any kind of limit to that kind of negligence, or really any kind of negligence?
Yeah, you're right. It spans, any given area. So, auto accidents obviously are a big area because we all drive our cars all the time, and sometimes our people don't pay as much attention or make a good decision. So that's a big one. There's areas with the property that we own. If you're going to own a business or a property that's open to the public, then you've got certain responsibilities to make sure that that's safe for them. So premises liability is a big area. Medical negligence is obviously another one. Doctors are terrific resource for the community, but they're also human, and sometimes they don't do what they're supposed to do. Again, some of that is understandable and excusable, and sometimes it isn't. And there's big consequences to that. So medical negligence is another big area. And you're right, it goes on, from there. The standard it's important to remember that you're not looking at every last little thing that somebody, didn't catch or did the wrong thing. It's a reasonableness standard. So if you fail to do what a reasonable person would do under the circumstances, then you have committed negligence. It's not just if you commit, any given little mistake. You just have to meet a reasonableness standard. And if you're not meeting that, then yeah, you're responsible.
Right. Absolutely. And when you were leaving the law firm and you were looking for your next venture in life, why personal injury? Why KBG Injury Law? Like, I've never heard that story either, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I was I was happy doing what I was doing. I was in a good spot. I was a partner
Yeah.
in that law firm. But like you, when I was younger, Katherman Briggs and Greenberg (KBG) was kind of the gold standard around town, and
Yeah.
I knew most of the guys who worked there, and really respected them and looked up to them, and I think everybody understood what a sterling reputation they had. So there weren't many places that I would have left my previous position for,
Yeah.
but this was an opportunity that was too good to pass up. And 17, 18 years later, I can say that it was absolutely the right thing for me.
Heck yeah. Has it been that long?
I know I find myself saying that phrase quite a bit these days, Jeff.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when we were talking at one of the local functions at a bar event and you had just made the decision. I feel like that was yesterday.
I, it's weird how these things start to work. On the one hand, it feels like it was just yesterday, but on the other hand, I can't remember what it was like,
Oh,
before all.
well,
So yeah, it works both ways.
well, that's true. And certainly being in the DA's office, I mean, you got probably a ton of litigation experience there. So that was probably a very easy transition for you.
Starting my career in the DA's office was a really terrific career experience, and we were in court. You're in court every day. You basically get thrown to the fire. So there's no better way to learn the rules of evidence, the rules of procedure, to understand sort of how the courtroom works and how to navigate all of that, than to just get thrown in there. I mean, I was only there for 3.5, 4 years, and I believe I had 40 jury trials during that time.
40.
It's again really fantastic experience, and I will always look back on my time there as one of the best times of my life. There's a really great group of people there who I'm still friends with to this day, and they've all gone on to accomplish amazing things. Several judges have come out of that group, and so that's really was a good time for me.
I can't get over 40 jury trials. Like, holy cow.
They used to, they changed the procedure over time to meet the demand. But at that time, they would have a trial term every other month. And so we'd get a new list of, I can't remember what it was, but I think it was something like 100 and some or 200 and some cases every other month. And most of them would reach plea arrangements. That's the administration of justice.
Right.
But some, there was no deal to be had, and a case has to simply be tried. And so I would work on a trial team of 2 people, and each of us would have somewhere between 3 to 5 jury trials in the course of a trial term, which was 2 weeks.
How do you prepare for those? I mean, you're almost winging some of it, right? I mean, obviously you know the basic facts, but
yeah, it's interesting now that I've been, so just, for your listeners, there's criminal law and there's civil law.
right.
So, what I do right now is civil law, which frankly mostly has to do with money. Somebody owes somebody money one way or the other. Somebody thinks they're owed money one way or the other. That's what civil law deals with. Trials that I do now, there are years in the making. Oftentimes it takes a long time. There's a ton of documentation, a ton of evidence that has to be marshaled. And then if a very small percentage of cases will go all the way to trial, but
Okay.
that do, the buildup and the work is enormous.
Absolutely.
In criminal law, the other side over there, that's, the state, the Commonwealth here in Pennsylvania, has charged somebody with a crime and they have a right to a speedy trial. So your case is supposed to go to trial inside of 365 days. And so a lot of those wind up falling into the same buckets, the same.
Okay.
categories. So for instance, I remember early in my career, the first probably 6 or 7 trials I had were all DUI trials. Somebody that was charged with driving under the influence.
Okay.
And so the preparation for that starts to be not as great. They
Got
all
it.
tend to fall the same way. You know what the issues are. You know what the approach is. The evidence is always different in some way, but
Right.
by and large, it doesn't take a huge amount of preparation.
Got it.
Yes,
That's
there were
amazing.
times when you would pick up the file in the morning and go try the case in the afternoon.
I don't know that I could do that. That takes a very certain type of person.
The entire field of that takes a very certain type of person. It moved fast.
Yeah, I mean, the thought of it is like giving me hives right now. Like and I've never done it a day in my life, as you know, but maybe that's why, right?
You know what? It was equal parts exciting and of course stressful. So
Yeah.
you don't see too many people do that as a long career. Some do, but most do it for a little while and then move on to something else.
And what percentage on the civil side, like with the type of work that you do now, would you say actually gets to a trial? I mean, it's a pretty low percentage, I would think.
Yeah, it really is. So I always tell people when they come to me, I said it's important to let's keep our terminology straight. Just because you're coming to talk to me about your case does not mean that you have sued anybody.
Right.
All right. What you have is a claim. Okay. And the goal with every claim is to try to resolve it. All right. That's the best case scenario for all sides. Right. So the only way that a claim becomes a lawsuit is if our idea of a fair resolution to that claim and their idea of a fair resolution are not the same. And we think that by availing ourselves of the court option that we're going to get to the right result. So there are downsides to that route that have to be considered before you do it. Right. The first downside is, as I mentioned, not a quick process. Okay. So I'd say on average around here, it takes anywhere from a year to 2 or 3 years for a case to get all the way to trial. The second downside is there's additional cost involved in that route. Now, I work on a contingency fee basis, which means I only get paid a percentage of whatever the recovery is. So it's not as though the attorney's fees go up because we're going that route. But there's other things that simply have to be paid for that come out of the case at the end of the day. The cost to file the case, the cost to have it served by the sheriff, cost for stenographers, for depositions and things like that. Big costs come at trial when we have doctors and they want to be compensated for their time to testify, that sort of thing. So there's additional cost. The third downside, of course, is there's risk. There's good outcomes and there's bad outcomes for both sides. And so because of those 3 factors, the time, the money, and the risk, most cases will not go all the way to a trial. Most cases will settle. A small percentage will go there. The ones that do go there because, again, there's a big discrepancy about what the outcome should be. And all sides have determined that those 3 factors, it's still worth it. We've got to go have this trial.
Right. And most of my listeners, I would say, are probably in the York, Lancaster, Adams County area here in Pennsylvania. Do you cover most of the state? Is it all the same in the areas, or do you kind of just focus on one little area?
Yeah, most of our practice is in the central part of the state here.
Yep.
Our main office is in York, but we also have offices in York and Adams County, and out right outside of Harrisburg as well. So we cover primarily around this area, but I've traveled quite a ways for some cases, and we're of course licensed to practice in the entire state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So I handle phone calls from people in lots of places, and sometimes I can help them directly. And if I can't help them directly, what I can do is I'm tied into a network of people that do what I do, and I can find them the right person to go to. I can help them find a good person.
Yeah, that's amazing. Very cool. And I got to tell you, we've gotten to know each other a little bit outside of the business side, and certainly we work together. But you have two of the most talented children that I have ever met in my life. I just want to say that for the record, my friend.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. You've got a very talented child yourself.
Man, it's fascinating to watch the two of them and how crazy, just amazing they both are. And were you a musician, or your wife, or?
Jeff, I often say it's a good thing that I think that my children physically resemble me, because if not, I would wonder if they were actually mine, because I have nothing to do
Oh,
with their
wow.
musical ability whatsoever. I'm the least musically capable person you could possibly meet.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. And how about your wife? How about like?
That's definitely where the side that
Okay, all
uh,
right.
she's always been a good singer, and she played an instrument when she was younger, but she also really gets it. Like she really understands the music and understands the theory in a way that I'm not capable of.
Yeah, and certainly I'm not either. I smile and give words of encouragement, but that's about all I have.
That's my role, right?
Yeah, my joke is I was a percussionist.
I'm, I'm the photographer.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah. So, would you mind telling the listeners a little bit about the musician side of your two kids? I mean, they are doing some crazy good things.
Sure, thank you. So I have two kids. My oldest son is 19 now. My youngest just turned 17.
Yeah.
My youngest son sings and is very much into that realm, as well as musical theater, and he's doing all sorts of really wonderful things. His journey is still in on its way.
Yeah.
My oldest son is really been the most remarkable story of my life, frankly. So he's on the autism spectrum. He was diagnosed when he was 3 years old, and those early years for us, trying as parents, trying to manage that situation were difficult, as they tend to be for parents in that situation. And so his name's Andy. Andy came to us and in fourth grade and wanted to play an instrument, and we did not think that was something that he really could possibly do. It required so much coordination to see notes on a page, to know what they meant, to translate that into what he has to do with his hands or his mouth, and make a note and then do that again and again and again in order to make music. That was beyond anything that we had ever seen from him before. So we kind of steered him to the trumpet, because it only had the three valves, and we thought,
Oh,
was his best chance for success. And so it was very, very slow to begin with. But by the end of his fourth grade year, coming down to the big fourth grade concert, and the teacher wasn't sure if Andy was able to do this, to be a part of the band. But at the very last minute, he was like, you know what, I think Andy can do this. And he did, and he played in the fourth grade concert. It was a big celebration.
yeah.
So from those humble beginnings, I'll shorten the story for you here. Somewhere along the line, something clicked for him with the trumpet. And by seventh grade, he was the first chair trumpet in the junior high. He qualified for the York Junior Symphony. He then went on to the York Youth Symphony, which was the high school version of that, became the first chair trumpet in the York Youth Symphony. In the high school band, he became the first chair trumpet. He qualified for the county honors band, for the regional band, for the ultimately, by the time he was a senior, he was in the Pennsylvania State Wind Ensemble. He won every award that our school district has to give to a kid in the music department, which was honestly astonishing.
Yeah.
But as you know, that turned out that wasn't his only instrument.
No, and maybe not even his best instrument, although, I mean, I guess you could argue either way on that one.
That's right. So along the way, his younger son had wanted to play the piano at some point, and so we invested in just one of these little electric keyboards for them to get started on. And Andy used to like to just fiddle around on it, and he would sit there and just tap out tunes like Star Wars stuff with one finger, dun 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 dun. Dun.
Wow.
And then we took him to the York Symphony, which I know your family enjoys, and I'd never been. I was never a symphony person before this, but he wanted to go. There was a John Williams program they were doing. He had done something like that in his school band. We went to that show, and he was blown away. It
Wow.
was the most seminal moment of his entire life, and he was so fascinated by that. He wanted to go to the next symphony show. The next symphony was Mozart and Beethoven and Haydn, and he loved it. And so the next thing we know, we come home, and now he's tapping out Mozart and Beethoven and Haydn with one finger on the keyboard. But then he got frustrated with that because that's not the way you play the piano. You use two hands. So he went to YouTube and he watched a bunch of videos about how you play the piano with both hands, came back, and next thing we know, he's playing Mozart and Beethoven and Haydn with both hands.
Whoa.
Then he started getting pretty good at it. So we said, gosh, I guess we better get him some lessons. And so from there, it really took off. And 6 months after that, he was playing Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata in a recital at York College. He was part of the York College prep program and played in their recitals for many years. He has won several competitions and several scholarships. He won the York Youth Symphony's concerto competition and played a Mozart concerto backed by the entire symphony.
Which was incredible.
And today, he is finishing up his first semester as a piano performance major at Westchester University, which is something that, I mean, the speed that all of this has come, this has all been within the last 5 years. And prior to this, I don't think we ever contemplated the idea that he would go to college. He has a myriad of learning disabilities that simply would not have been a direction for him. But music is completely different. Music speaks to him. He understands it. It makes sense to him like nothing else does. And so far so good. He loves it there. And, he's doing great.
Wow. Now, is your younger son planning to continue music? Because equally as talented. I mean, incredible.
He's a terrific singer and a terrific performer. I think that he definitely wants to stay involved in it.
Okay.
He's a junior in high school right now.
Yep.
So we've got a little bit of time before this actually happens. So I think he wants to do it when he gets to college.
Okay.
But I don't think that he wants to major in it.
Major in it. Okay.
Other things. He's very interested in psychology. So I think he wants to do something that probably feels more like a realistic career.
Okay.
He'll keep his hand in that as well.
But the musical theater, man, he is, I mean, the singing ability, but also the acting. I mean, that doesn't come naturally to most people.
I appreciate that. So I'll take a tiny modicum of credit for providing some DNA for that.
Nice. There you go.
I was always involved in acting all throughout high school, and I did it in college a little bit too. And I think that lends to, my career as a trial attorney. That's a good skill to have. So I gave him nothing at all for his singing voice. I was a negative for his singing voice, but I'll take an ounce of credit for the acting.
But positive for the acting. All right, that's good. That's good. Yeah, and I know that we have seen our families at a lot of the York Symphony Orchestra concerts here locally, and my daughter was always motivated by Andy and watching him, compete in all those different competitions, and she did get into the York Youth Symphony this year as a freshman, and she just last weekend got into district. She made it as a freshman. So
hey, congratulations.
Yeah. So she's definitely enjoying it, and it's fun to watch her kind of grow into the young lady and just really enjoying music. And she's taken just strides this past year, and it's just fun to watch that, isn't it? It's really neat.
It's great, Jeff, and I'm sure you would agree with me that what a great community for your kids to be
Yeah.
involved in. The music communities in and around where we live, and I'm sure most other places, are so incredibly supportive, and just a great organizations for our kids to be involved in.
Yeah.
I can't say enough good things about the York Youth Symphony,
No.
uh, and the York Symphony for that matter.
Yeah.
As we've gotten more and more involved with that, and I think we've talked about this before. This is nothing that I ever had an interest in before. I didn't grow up listening to that kind of music. It wasn't a thing for me, but I've been introduced to it through my kids, and what a wonderful thing to be involved in.
Yeah, it's incredible. And a couple weeks ago, we had to drive to Philadelphia to listen to the Philadelphia Orchestra because this incredible cello performer was performing. Actually, she had performed in New York, I think, a year or two ago as well, and did a solo. But it was breathtaking. I mean, although I will say York is very good as well. I mean, it certainly. But it was very nice to be in Philadelphia watching that orchestra play, and it was something different, man. It was pretty cool.
You know, to bring Andy's story a little bit full story, Andy keeps his eyes out for everything that's going on. He wants to go see everybody and everything. But John Williams himself, 91 years old, I think, is actually coming to Philadelphia in
Yep.
February.
And we have tickets, my friend.
Well, then we will see you there.
Sounds good. Oh, that's awesome. We'll
Yeah,
definitely catch
so
up with each other, man.
Andy is so excited to be able to go there and actually see him. I wish there was some way that we could let him know what an important role he played in our son's life. But he's a lot of people want to tell him things, so
Sure.
he's a little busy.
Yeah. And I'm curious, just because I've been at events with Andy at the Philadelphia Orchestra, will he have the score with him following along?
As you know, Jeff, he doesn't go anywhere and see anything without the entire score.
I love that, man.
So he and I took a trip this past summer. So from the time he really started getting into this, he started telling me how much he really wanted to go to Europe, to go to the places in Germany and Austria, Vienna in particular, where Mozart and Beethoven lived and did their things. It was really a big thing for him. Now, traveling with Andy back in those days was a challenge, to say the
Right.
least. So I kind of put him off, and I kept telling him, maybe, when you graduate high school, maybe we'll try and do that. So then he graduated high school,
And you did, my friend.
and we made the trip this past summer. It was the trip of a lifetime for him, but it really was an amazing experience for both of us. But the funny thing was, again, everywhere he goes and every performance, we saw a number of performances while we were there, always has the full musical score for the entire symphony in front of him. And he follows along and he sort of conducts kind of quietly from his seat.
I couldn't even read it. Like I wouldn't even be able to know where they were in the score.
Oh, yeah. It's a bunch of squiggly lines on a page to me, too. I have no idea.
I have no clue. Yeah, that's amazing, man. It's just fun watching both of them, and they're both just starting as well, so that's kind of neat. And I knew coming on this podcast today, it was going to fly. There was no question in my mind that the two of us start talking about our careers and our children, and it was going to fly by. So thank you, Craig. I really appreciate you being with us on this podcast today. I want to remind my listeners that Craig and his team are there at KBG Injury Law to assist you if you have any issues or if anyone was negligent and you were damaged in any way. They are top notch. Craig is an incredible human being, both personally and professionally. I can't say enough good things about him. If you're looking for any information in regards to estate planning and elder law, please check us out at www.belomoassociates.com or 717-845-5390. And Craig, how would my listeners find you if they were looking for you?
Yeah, you can reach KBG Injury Law. The phone number there is 717-848-3838. Or you can look us up on the web. Our address is www.resultsyoudeserve.com.
Awesome. Thank you very much. And thank you to my listeners for joining us on the Red Wagon Estate Planning and Elder Law Show, hosted by me, yours truly, Jeffrey Belomo, where we discuss all things estate planning and elder law. And, well, hey, anything else we want to talk about. Today, I got to talk to my dear friend Craig Milsten with KBG Injury Law about his career and his children and his family, and we had a wonderful time. I'd like to thank all my listeners for being with us. And until next time, we'll see you real soon.